Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Tanchikiawawanush. How is everyone today? Deshinikau Shan, Jordan Fleury, Almachifnia. My name is Jordan Fleury. I'm Métis. It's a pleasure to be here today. As Shanine mentioned, I was recognized last year as a national Aboriginal role model. Part of my responsibility is to attend community visits and address youth quite a bit, at least 3 times a year. I've actually been fortunate to be invited to events on the larger end like this, and this is actually my first visit in my hometown. I'm from Brandon. I was born in Calgary, raised in Brandon. And believe it or not, preparing for today's presentation was kind of a little more of a challenge than in the past. It's always easy to kind of step out of your realm and visit another community and speak about a number of things when you don't really know the people or they don't necessarily know you. So it's a real pleasure to be here in Brandon today. So as I move into my presentation, I'm going to speak a little bit about some of the things that I've done throughout my life and have experienced, and I guess it's kind of landed me here today. In the meantime, I'm nervous, I'm excited, so I will try my best to keep this together and keep it flowing. Bear with me. As I mentioned, I was born in Calgary. I went through all of my formal education, elementary school, junior high school, and high school here in Brandon. I lost my biological father at a very early age, and Shanine had also mentioned something that is very important. It's always been important in our family, is it takes a community to raise a child. Literally, family is the number one thing. Friends come and go, colleagues will come and go, but your family is definitely number one. I've never gone wrong with resorting to my family for advice, which is something I always do. Although the role model program leads a motto of lead your way, something I strive to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that without the input of the people that matter the most to me. My aunts and uncles, my cousins, a lot of these people were just like parents, especially my grandparents in raising me. I also have a loving stepfather. These people have really helped shape the way in the future that I now stand in and for things to come. One of the most important things I really give kudos to my family for is, although I had all of my formal education to an extent up to grade 12 here in Brandon, all of my cultural awareness, my cultural understanding, who I am as a Métis person, who I am as a Métis person in Canada, as an Aboriginal person, that has come from my family. It has kept me grounded. I didn't learn about Métis culture. I did not learn about Aboriginal people, and there wasn't an Aboriginal curriculum when I was going through school here in Brandon. So they've really kept me grounded on that. I think I may have been lost without them. And as I've gone through that education system, and although I'm standing here today, I may look somewhat professional, I kind of struggled going through school, junior high school and high school. There were things that I understand now in my life that I didn't understand when I was a child, even though I still had a lot of family support. A lot of questions in my mind about my situation, about being Métis, about not having my biological father around, other things that, I had peers and friends who kind of had this ideal situation going on. So a lot of the times, I grew up comparing myself with people. And I found that although I struggled in my studies, somehow naturally, something I really had an interest in, I really took care of in junior high and high school was a theater program. Perhaps it just, it was a time for me, for that portion of the day, I could really step out of my boundaries, out of my shell, who I was. To an extent, some of the things that I didn't understand really kind of developed a bit of a shame. So I went through an era there where I wasn't not only sure of exactly who I was and how I fit in, I wasn't sure that was ever going to work out for me, or if I was going to fit in at all. So I kind of had a natural liking for the arts, for theater and things like that, playing roles of other people and, just kind of really getting out of the shell, letting it hang loose. When I completed high school, I had actually gone through grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, taking theater quite seriously. But at the same time, with these other misunderstandings and things I wasn't sure of, I had come to a point in high school where I was ready to give in. I was ready to drop out of high school. I had been held back in kindergarten, something I had never really understood. As well, my first year of junior high, grade 7, I was unsuccessful that year as well. So in grade 11, I was 18 years old. I had already been working, and it didn't seem like the education system was going to do very much for me. It didn't seem like the right thing. That's when my family, again, being number one, struggling through high school also had a lot to do with peers and the people that I'd surrounded myself with, who I had started to try to impress them more. It was more important to have my friends than to be doing studying or hanging out or even playing on any high school sports teams. It really just came down to these people really don't know who I am, but they like me the way that I'm presenting myself. So I kind of got lost in that for a little while. So choosing to drop out of high school was an easy choice in my mind, but there was no way that was going to fly with my parents and my family, my extended family, who I had mentioned that's who I went to really run these by. They had kept me grounded once again, and going into grade 12, because I had started to throw the towel in, I had found myself in a position where I truly had to complete 12 classes in grade 12 in order to graduate with my friends. And I was confident at the time that if I didn't pull through it, then I didn't think I would be going back the following year, because I would have, again, been quite a bit older than some of my peers, and I wasn't sure that I would be able to pull through that. So with some real dedication and, of course, sacrifice, because I had to start to separate myself from some of those circles of people and circles of things that were really drawing me away. And it kind of began a new leaf in my life where not only now did I understand that my family was going to be there like they had always been and had always been explained to me, I was really going to take an appreciation into that now and begin to try to challenge myself a little bit. So I had made it through high school, and I had graduated from Brandon here, Vincent Massey High School in 1999. And although I know what I had to do to make that happen, I still hadn't taken it entirely seriously. So I completed high school, but I hadn't set out any goals. I hadn't really started to envision any real plans for what I would do, other than I do have my grade 12, and I have a network of people around me, aunts and uncles, peers, that have always worked, and some of them hadn't finished high school. So now what do? And having this interest in theater and developing a good friendship with a close friend of mine who we keep in touch now, but we've gone separate ways, through my experiences in theater, had learned from a friend that he had an uncle who was a director in Winnipeg and other family connections to the film industry in Winnipeg. So we headed east to Winnipeg, fresh out of high school, and tried to pursue a career in fame. And, it was worth it. It was an experience I'll never look back. But we were right back in Brandon 12 months later, and kind of in the same position with some new experiences. Still had my grade 12, but I still wasn't applying it. I wasn't entirely sure still what to do. So like many men and many male figures, father figures too, that I had in my life, I started to pursue an interest in construction, to become a laborer and work for a living. And I was still young. I was only 20 years old. And so this is what I started to do. And it was while I began to pursue this, a hopeful career of just working, being a working man, that I really kind of opened my mind to some of the insight and encouragement I had started to get from the people I was actually working with. As I kind of grew fond and started to settle in this construction crew, so too did my co-workers, and a lot of them who had been there for years with years of experience kind of started to bring out a better understanding for me that I had actually completed high school. Some of them were there, successful, doing what they were doing and happy doing it, but might not have been there should they or would they have completed high school.